everyone.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm very happy and honored to share my guest of the week today, Jai Uttal, world-renowned devotional musician, multi-instrumentalist, singer, and just like one of the most inspiring human beings we know. Many of you know him, and for those of you who don't, I'm going to have Jai do a very brief introduction of his very powerful and eclectic life that has led him to his life path of music and devotional singing and creativity. I've known Jai now for, it feels like, just lifetimes. We started our yoga practice many, many moons ago, and Jai was one of our role models. He was one of our inspirations and teachers, and we would just sort of like travel around with him. Whenever he was playing, we were big groupies, and we started having our children around Jai. We got married around Jai. I mean, it's like we were in the cult of Jai Uttal. And I just remember personally, for me, as a bhakti yogic musician, you were always the coolest one. And that doesn't mean I'm putting anybody else down, but for me especially, you just had this vibe of like timelessness and groove and passion to your music that you still have today. And now with your marriage to Nubia, your incredible wife, and your amazing son that we've watched grow over the years, I just wanted to introduce you and thank you so much for coming on with me to discuss some very powerful topics to share with our audience today. Jai.
Oh, thank you so much, Chandani. What an introduction. I could actually never live up to that. Um, I never experienced myself as being very cool. I always felt kind of like alienated and shy and on the outside looking in. But I guess something inside of me was shining out that I couldn't exactly see, but others could see. Um, when you get older, like I just turned 69. So when you get older, if someone asks you for like a brief synopsis of what you've done and how you got here, my God, that can be a pretty long story. But but I'll try to be very, very simple. I started playing music when I was about 6 or something like that. And I was learned piano, and my first real musical love was banjo, which I want to add that during this quarantine period, I've deeply gotten back into it. So that's really cool. But I started in New York. I was in New York City, and I heard the Hare Krishna singing when I was about 15 or 16, and I was intrigued. And then I got into a yoga organization. No. Then I came to California and started studying classical music, Indian music, with Ali Akbar Khan, the great, great, great master who died 11 years ago. And then I was in this yoga group and I wanted to explore that more. So at 19, I went to India. And while I was there, well, of course, many, many things happened. But I met Neem Karoli Baba Maharaji, who is my guru, who, uh, well, some of the listeners might know, he's the guru of Ram Dass. He's the same guru as Krishna Das. And we all met there. And although I had been singing kirtan a little bit when I was a teenager, when I was with Maharaji, that practice of chanting these mantras, I guess it got shaktified. I guess I don't know quite how to put it, but he planted this seed in me, and the singing turned into something else. At first kirtan singing is like pure joy, but then when it becomes your way of life, then you discover all the different colors that live inside of your heart. Some of them blissful and some of them painful. And gradually you sing and you sing and you sing and they all come out in your song. Um, so then through the years, I continued performing and studying first Indian music and then lots of different kinds of music. Currently, since I've been with Nubia, I've been taking Brazilian guitar lessons. And although write some English songs, most of the songs, music that I compose is for mantras, and so I do mantras, kirtan mantras in many different styles, whatever mood that I'm in. And as you know, when I first started coming to LA, I live in Northern California, but when I first started coming to LA to lead kirtans, well, what did we have? Like 10 people in the room, you know, and that was good enough for me. I actually remember some of those earlier kirtans that were just so ecstatic, But amazingly, and this of course has its pros and cons, but the the world has suddenly become aware of kirtan and the transformative powers of it, and the joy of community that comes with it. And so now I do the same thing, but there's large groups. And well, lastly, before your next question, I'll say that for the last 18 years, my wife and I have been leading kirtan camps twice a year, where people come and they immerse themselves in both the practice as well as some of the techniques. And this year, well, it's been a very strange year, but this year we're doing it online instead of together in a group, and that starts next week. It starts on June 30th, and we put a lot of thought and feeling and heart into creating this first online kirtan camp.
That's so exciting.
Yeah,
I mean, just to look on the positive side, that people from all corners of the globe can participate in that now, whereas before they had to fly over here to see you. So that's
I know
pretty
that's
soon.
that's really cool. Like we have one participant from India. Most of the course you can view whenever you want. It'll be available for 3 months, but there are some sessions where we'll be engaging with each other. This fellow from India wrote, "Oh man, are those sessions going to be available after?" And I said, "Yeah, but why?" And he said, "Well, because it's 1 a.m. or what did he say, 2:30 a.m. in the morning when you do that." So he is cool about it though, because they will be archived.
That's good to know. So I just want to take it back to Neem Karoli Baba. And for people who don't know, Neem Karoli Baba is a very famous, well-known Indian guru, more so a sage, I would say at this point, a very wise human being that came to earth and impacted humanity in a very positive and powerful way. And we, as the sort of groupies around you that were introduced to bhakti, devotional singing, and we're getting our beaks wet with Eastern philosophy and yoga and meditation, you sort of were the ones that were teaching us and introducing us to all these experiences and concepts, and we were sort of like trying to soak up as much as we could. And you and Bhagavan Das and Krishna Das, you were like, the the Das brothers. And I just wanted you
And
to
don't forget Ramdas as well.
Ram Das too. Sorry, oh my goodness, how could I
Yeah.
forget? And Ram Das too, of course. So you were the sort of the Das brothers. Can you talk about that coalition? Did you all meet at the same time? Were you all sort of introduced to one another at later times? What's the history behind that? Because we don't know really.
Well, Ramdas, I met in California. I guess I was 17 or something like that. He had just come back from India, and he was doing these incredible. Well, you can say lectures, but they were more like happenings. There was singing, there was music, and he had just been with Maharaji and just was filled with this energy. And he came and he gave these talks, which I don't know, which like I think completely turned many people around. So I went to a bunch, and then we chatted, and I was living in Berkeley in a kind of a makeshift ashram. It was just a bunch of hippies slash yogis living together, trying to, join yogic forces. It was like very free form. We called it an ashram, but it was like a bunch of hippie kids living together and trying to do yoga together and meditate together and stuff. So I invited Ramdas over, and he came over, and we did hours of kirtan, and then we had a big old meal, and then he left. And how in retrospect, it's like, how cool is that? Anyway, so then when I was 19, there were, there's a many elements to the story, and I just want to keep it short. But I went to India. I had a very different intention going. I was planning on going to meet this other guru whose disciples I had been studying with. And it turned out that he was in jail for murder. So, I, it's an incredible story, which I'm happy to tell at another time. But basically, I was there in India. I was 19 years old. It was 1971, I think, and or 1970, and my whole agenda had been cut because we were going to this place to see him, etc. So I was just wandering around, and this guy in a bookstore said that Ram Dass was giving classes in a hotel in New Delhi. So I wasn't so interested in the classes, but I was, I didn't know what to do with myself, and I thought, I'll go say hi to Ram Dass. So got to the hotel, and the guy at the hotel said that Ram Dass had gone to Vrindavan the day before. Vrindavan's a holy city in North India. Was the home of Krishna and Radha. And Ram Dass had gone there to see his guru. So I was not that interested in meeting a guru at that point, but we were kind of like, my friends and I were kind of like following the breadcrumbs, No, we had no agenda. We're young. We're in crazy India. So, well, let's just follow the leads. So we went to Vrindavan, and in that town at that point, there was only one hotel that allowed Westerners to stay in. So I went there, and there was a whole bunch of young Western people, Western meaning non-Indian, like Europeans, Americans, South Americans, staying there. And that's where, including Ram Dass, who I knew, and then also including Krishna Das, who was one of the first guys I met there. So anyway, time, lots of time passed. But I didn't meet Bhagavan Das till after I came home from India. Where was it? We were living in Northern California up in the woods. And Bhagavan Das came to visit. When I say we, a small bunch of Maharaji devotees. And it was a snowy, cold day, and the wood stove was on, and Bhagavan Das comes into the room, and I say hey, and we meet each other. And exactly at that moment, this jacket that I was wearing, I stood too close to the wood fire, and I caught on fire. So anyway, that was when I met Bhagavan Das.
That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And
And what about Shamdas?
Shamdas, wow, Shamdas is one of my closest friends, and Sham, before he became better known in the States, he was living in Berkeley, or mostly living in India, but then coming to Berkeley because he had a girlfriend there, and that's where he would just hang out. And he knew of me from, I guess, from people and from my CDs and stuff. And one day, Shamdas, I didn't know him. I didn't know of him. One day, there's a knock on my door in this little cottage I was living in, and it's Shamdas, and he says, "Jai Gopal, Jai Gopal." That my full Indian name, the middle name is Gopal, and he said, and I'm like, yeah, hi. He said, he wrapped his arms around and said, "I'm Shamdas. I want to hear you sing." And at first I was kind of taken aback as I didn't know this guy coming to my door, and I'm pretty private, my my home life is pretty private. So, but I said, "Oh, well, come on in and I'll make you some chai because, got to be hospitable, right?" But I was still kind of holding back. I didn't know quite who this guy was. And so we chattered and chattered and chattered, and realized that we were kind of on the same train. And then I had some stuff to do. I think I was about to release an album and I had some business, and I kind of was suggesting that he go now because I needed to do stuff. And he said, I won't leave your house until we sing God's name together. And I'm like, this guy, wow. So I said, no, come on. And anyway, he finally, I had to say yes. So we went to the other room and started singing kirtan. And from that moment, he was one of my best friends for life. And we used to write love poems to each other, uh, as if we were writing to Krishna, as if we were gopis writing to Krishna, and we had this amazing, amazing friendship. I was it was different than any friendship that I've ever had, and then he died, and it's just so sad.
We were with him in India, and we went with our group, and Karanamrita Dasi was with us, and they were very close, and we went to where he lived, and he welcomed us, and he put leaves on the ground and fed us, and just the amount of love and devotion in this man was so infectious and so inviting, and such a lesson beyond his scholarly knowledge of the Vedas and living this life and devoting his life to the higher powers of seeking and truth. And you're right, the impact of his heart was so much bigger than the vessel he was carrying in.
Yeah,
And
he was also hysterically funny. It was a really, yeah. I miss him. I really miss him. And then, Krishnadas and I have been, of course, friends since the day we met. But our friendship is a little different. We're kind of like brothers who kind of grind against each other a little bit, but love each other. And we're on such similar life paths, and we invariably run into each other at festivals and stuff, and it's always just beautiful. We hug, and you know, and Ramdas. Well, Ramdas took me on my very first tour. How old was I? I was just back from India, I guess, and Ramdas asked me to accompany him on a tour around the country, and sing and play music, and like play some background music while he was talking at times, and then to lead kirtan. And that was really a major for me. That was my first kind of exposure to the world, and being on a big stage with like thousands of people. And I got to know him very, very, very well. In the last years of his life, when he was living on Maui, I didn't see him very much, but I saw him, I guess, 2 years ago, I guess. I was there for a gig, and I spent an afternoon at his house. And Ramdas is quite a guy. Well, he was ready to go, though. His passing, I think he was like totally preparing for it for a long time. Sham, on the other hand, was such a shock, but in his way, he was preparing it as well.
yeah, it was a shock to the whole community, I think,
Yeah,
and the world. It's interesting how our conversation, and I don't want to speak for too long with this precious time, but like the idea of devotion for you as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 25-year-old, 30-year-old has evolved, I'm sure, and has redefined itself as the ages have developed and grown and moved on, and you yourself have grown up and become a father and a husband and evolved in your own in your own ways. When you think about the path of awakening and the movement of yoga, consciousness, Eastern philosophy, the political systems of the world, the decline of the environment, the issues that we're faced with today, and you have a look at the life you've led, how do you feel that the impact of your youth being a musician, a devotional musician, seeking the divine, traveling, devoting your life to music, and and awareness. How do you think that's impacted who you are today with regards to your devotion and with regards to your opinion and accountability for who you are today with respect to the world?
Chandani, your questions are very big questions, but it's beautiful. It's difficult to answer, but I'll say that, you know, maybe I could even say during my 20s and my 30s and even somewhat into my 40s, my music and my singing, even though I was sharing it with others as much as possible, it was all about healing these very deep wounds in my heart. And people would write me and talk to me and call, I'd meet and they would tell me how incredibly healing and helpful my music had been for them during very difficult times of their life. And they were, really, really appreciative. And these words kind of went like this to me. I couldn't quite I guess I was too involved in my own inner work to be able to actually see what was happening on the outside. But then, well, a bunch of things happened. One thing in my late 40s, I got sober. I stopped drinking alcohol or taking any substances. Another thing was meeting Nubia and finally on the earth plane feeling safe enough to show how unsafe I felt to another person. And some times that I spent in India with Siddhima, who was the elderly woman who took care of all the Maharaji's ashrams after he left his body. And just life itself. And I began to get the sense, and it was the opposite of like ego enhancing or something like that. It was the opposite. It was very humbling. I began to get the sense that what I was doing was serving others in a very, very, very beautiful way. So that gave me a different perspective, wherein what I was feeling in a given moment was less important than what I was able to give to someone else. Certainly becoming a father, did that really big time because I cared much more about my son's experience than my own. And I began to feel and see and experience that bhakti, while it's a beautiful uplifting practice that uplifts your heart and cleans your spirit and all that. The essence of it is really service and sharing with others. Um, you know, like I even said this once at Bhakti Fest. It was one of the largest Bhakti Fests. It was, I don't know, 5,000 people there, and in the middle of it, I kind of stopped and I said, I'm just wondering why you all are here. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer, but ask yourselves why you're here. And and I said, if you're here to connect with God, that's awesome. If you're here to meet a girlfriend or a boyfriend, that's awesome also. But as long as you're honest with yourself. And then I went on to say, I mean, I was probably talking too much. People just wanted the music. But I went on to say that, we can get nice, ecstatic, blissful party with kirtan. And that's, I think that's wonderful. But it's so much more, the path of bhakti is so much deeper than just blissing out. And, and, you know, if you're feeling a fullness in your heart and you look around you and that person you can tell isn't, you got to go and give it to that person. And whether that takes the form of giving food to somebody, or whether that takes the form of giving money to somebody, or if that takes the form of standing on the street and holding a Black Lives Matter poster. Uh, it's endless, the ways that we can help other people and help the world. And each person needs to find their way. And now, as I share bhakti and as I, teach chants and help people learn to sing and all the beautiful things, I'm so always reminding me and the students around, the friends, that the essence of this practice is to help others and to share and to give to others. Uh, it's not, it's not how am I going to find liberation and salvation. I mean, not that that's like wrong. That's there, but it's not the primary thing. The primary thing is helping others. So I guess that's what comes to mind in terms of answering that question. We could talk for a week about that question.
So I've listened to your music lately, and it's always so soulful, but there seems to be like this country western vibe going on. Am I wrong? I'm not from that. I'm so like amateur about giving a description, but like, what is it that we're hearing? Like, is it the Brazilian? Is it country western? Like, where is this vibe coming from? And before we end today, after you've discussed that, it would be amazing for you to end this sacred conversation between one another with something you'd love to share with us musically.
Oh, sure. I could do that. That'd be really fun. But no, I wouldn't say country western. Um, well, one thing, for many years, all the music that I wrote and I put on my albums was for my band, Pagan Love Orchestra, and I was mostly playing harmonium. And but in the last, I don't know, 10 years or something, I've been playing a lot of guitar. But I wouldn't call it country and western. I would say it's very, very influenced by two things. One is roots reggae, and the other is uh, Brazilian samba and bossa nova. Um,
I was so off.
well, unless you've been watching my live streams over the last 3 months, because what I've been doing a lot with my live streams is playing banjo and singing kirtan
Yeah.
with the banjo, and you know, I feel like I'm relearning it and rediscovering it, and a lot of times I'm playing it and I totally mess up, because had really a high skill level when I was like 15 or something like that. I auditioned for music high school on banjo, and well, I lost all that, but I'm rediscovering it. So that, I still wouldn't call it country and western, but it's kind of like old time Appalachian um, hillbilly music, but with
I love
with
it.
with kirtan mantras.
Yeah, I should have said something like, I don't know, bluegrass. That would have been more in line.
Maybe so. That would be that would have been more. But the thing about music, and actually the thing about art in general, of all kinds, is that the viewer or the listener sees their own story, and that's to me one of the most, particularly music that isn't, because music is such a trip. It's there and then it's gone, especially live music, and each person uh, has their own experience of what they're hearing, and it can be very, very different. Particularly if we're all singing together, if it's kirtan, um, then everybody's journey is very, very different. Although the emotional content is shared and spread, and each person's heart space increases the next person's heart space. So yeah, if you were hearing country and western, that's just fine.
Oh my goodness.
So I have to. Well, nothing much. I just have to go across the room and get my guitar,
Go for it.
and I have to find my capo, which is right here. I didn't think
That
that I
might
would be
be on
singing.
the spot because you can graciously decline.
No, I would rather graciously accept.
Thank you. I
You know,
love.
one thing I've loved about live streaming, I've been doing like twice a week concerts for the last, we're getting close to 4 months now, and it's just in my home, and you know, I'm fumbly, I make so many mistakes, and one of the beautiful things is that we're all in this boat together, and we're all very, very human. And sometimes on a big stage, the artist seems larger than life, you know, even though they're not. But the whole scenario presents the artist as being some amazing being from outer space. But when we're live streaming from our home, we're just like all together in the struggle. And this corona time has not been an easy time for anybody. Uh, and I think singing and sharing and acknowledging the challenges has been really wonderful. And I know that people have really appreciated it, and it's been really wonderful for me. So let me get up and get my guitar, and I'll be right back.
Super exciting. We get to have Jai Uttal impromptu play live for us from his headquarters in Northern California, and we can see his beautiful altar in the back.
So, you know, you said country and western. So there is
Oh my God.
there's this one kirtan melody that I just came up with out of the blue. I guess I don't know, a month ago. What's happening here? Hold on. Oh, there we go. And now that you mention it, I think it's a little country and western. It's the only thing. It's the
Look
only.
how sweet and kind you are.
So maybe this is what you heard, and it's very, very different from most of my melodies and stuff. Oh, Chantini, I have to say that released an album in the quarantine, and it's called Gory's Lullaby, and it's all instrumental music, no singing, and it's very, very, very calm and very. It's like medicine. We thought of it as medicine. So
Where can
I
we get
just want
that?
people. Uh, all the streaming places. We didn't make hard copies, and it's Gauri apostrophe S Lullaby.
We'll put it in the link.
Okay, and then one last reminder about Kirtan Camp is right around the corner. Online Kirtan Camp.
We'll put the link for that as well for people to sign up.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, this is country and western. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Rama, Jai Jai Ram. So I'd like to invite who's ever watching this to sing with me. Shri is the name of one of the names of the divine goddess, and Ram is one of the names of the infinite Lord, and Jai or Jaya means victory. So even though I can't hear y'all, it'd be nice. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Rama, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Rama, Jai Jai Ram. Let's go around it one more time. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Rama, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Ram, Shri Rama Jai Rama, Jai Jai Ram. Chandani, I've been calling this a campfire Sri Ram. So it is definitely the most. It's like an old cowboy song, sort of.
It's enchanting.
Is what?
Enchanting.
Thank you. I actually really love it. It's extremely non-Indian, except for the mantra.
Did you record that yet or no?
No, I just made it up. Not very long ago. I
That's like
had.
a hot single.
Hmm.
It's like a hot single.
Oh God, I have so many songs I want to record, and you know, I don't have a home recording studio, and the fellow, my dear friend Ben, who I always record with, he's shut down, he's locked down. Um, but that would be one of the ones that I would want to record. It's just such a lilting, sweet melody.
It just takes you right into the bath.
Nice. I think Sham Das would have liked that one.
Yeah. Well, I just want to tell you how much we love you and what a torch, a beacon of hope and light you are in our lives. And, I know you don't like to take compliments, but I feel that acknowledgement in life is so important when it's due. And I feel like acknowledgement is a form of service in itself. And for the musicians and the painters and the artists and the visionaries of our world, we are the ones, you are the ones who can pave the way to greatness, to more beauty, to more healing. So your form of activism in this world is so much appreciated and needed so much more than ever. And for anyone that wants to get in touch with you, we've got all the links for the music camp and for the new release of the album, and also ways for people to get in touch with you if they need to. Is there anything you want to say in closing about the path of devotion and the rise of awakening?
Well, yeah, I guess in any time, in any age, it's our spiritual awareness and our practice of compassion is about the most important thing that we can do. But now, with well, number one, with this virus that's tormenting so many, and two, with this, I won't say new awareness, but reawakening of the awareness of racial inequality, and the need for drastic change. These two things demand us to go even deeper into ourselves, and at the same time go even further outside of ourselves to find ways to help. So it's not like that's only important now, but it seems like it's more important now. And of course, each person's journey is so completely unique, and each person's way of uplifting their own being and getting closer to spirit is unique, and each person's way of helping others is completely unique. So there's you can't tell anybody what to do. I think everybody's inner voice eventually guides them to their own path. But it seems like so essential now to really dig deeper and walk the walk.
Thank you so much, Jai. Thank you for sharing this valuable time with me, and I can't wait till we see each other again. Namaste.
Yeah, it's so nice to reconnect with you. So thank you for reaching out to me and inviting me. Thank you so much.